Hey guys, and welcome back to another book video with your two favorite book nerds, Amy
and Kelly.
And today we are doing a What the Hype video, where we are going to be talking about a book that has a lot of hype surrounding it and finding out if we actually agree with all the praise that that book has been receiving. Today's book, it was Kelly's pick since I made her go through some books in August that she did not like very much at all, so I figured, you know,
it was my turn.
It was your turn. It was a well-earned turn.
It was my turn.
So we read
Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. It is the Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI. This is, well, I picked it because I knew it was being made into a movie, so that's my first kind of tick the box of being hyped. Also on Goodreads it has a butt-ton of reviews and pretty high star rating.
Yeah.
So,
and if we needed any more reasons to solidify the choice, it has been checked out of every single library and everywhere.
Could not get it. Not the audiobook, not the ebook, not a physical copy.
No library loans. They're everywhere I looked.
It's gone.
Gone. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, definitely a hyped book.
It is
for sure
a hyped book, which is interesting because it's nonfiction.
Right. That surprised me. It was one that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I'd never heard of it until you had brought it up. Yeah.
I had heard of it, but nothing. I didn't know that it was that hyped until I heard the movie was coming out.
October 20th, 2023.
Yeah. With Leonardo DiCaprio, no less.
And Martin Scorsese. And Brendan Fraser. He's in it.
That's right. He is.
He is.
So, that is why I chose this book, and also because I want to see the movie, and I want to read the book first, and also because, I think I've mentioned before, I'm trying to read more about Indigenous peoples, and not just written by, but about them as well. So that's kind of another reason I knew I wanted to read this book. So, we read that book, and we have reading vlogs to go along with it.
We do. So, I guess, per usual with our vlogs, we'll kick it on back to our past selves for you guys to see some of our reactions, comments, and things as we're reading along. And we'll see you after we get done. We'll see you after that.
Yeah. I'm starting Killers of the Flower Moon today sometime, hopefully soon. I think work's been really slow, so I might have a chance to read for a little while. I'm really looking forward to this one. Ever since I learned about this and heard the movie was coming out, I really wanted to read the book before I saw the movie. I'm kind of sad, ashamed to say that I had no idea about this story, about the murders on the Osage Indian Reservation in Oklahoma, which seems kind of sad since I'm in Kansas and it's really not all that far away, but I don't know. You know, my high school days were quite a while ago, so I won't swear that the topic was never touched on in history class, but I'm guessing it probably wasn't. Yeah, I guess swear to that. So, I'm really looking forward to reading about this and finding out what happened and learning more about this story, so I'll update you when I'm into it.
Hello. So honestly, I totally forgot that I had told Kelly that we were supposed to do vlogs for this video, and luckily I remembered now. But yeah, chaotic reading vlogs are always on par for us, it seems like. I ordered the book on Thrift Books and it has not arrived yet currently. And we are like a day or two away from when we're gonna be filming. So I actually managed to find on YouTube, some girl has uploaded her own version of an audiobook. So I'm going to be able to get the book done before we film in 2 days. So there you go.
I am now about halfway through the book and I'm really enjoying it. It's really interesting. It's, again, a story I really knew nothing about the tribe of Osage Indians who moved to Oklahoma in the 1800s, and then in the early 1900s, there was oil discovered on the reservation, and just the kind of, lengths that people went to try and rob them of their land and their mineral rights eventually. I mean, it's just history repeating itself all over again. And what seems so strange is that, this is the 1900s, after all of like the Indian Wars and such, and you think that some of that would have been put to rest, but no, it wasn't. There's still people there trying to steal everything they have, especially after oil was discovered, and lots of oil, lots of money. I mean, huge amounts of money. But luckily, in this case, the tribe had been able to really kind of legally get around that to keep their mineral rights. So the first part of this book, there's like 3 distinct parts, and the first part of the book is all about the Osage tribe and how they arrived in Oklahoma and all of the things that they went through, to try and keep their land from being taken by settlers, and the government coming in and trying to force them into selling their land, and then the oil happening. And the one thing it just seems so unreal to me is this notion of guardianships, that people actually went to court and said that the Osage Indians were not capable of handling their own money. And so they were assigned guardians, and they were wards of the government and assigned guardians. And these guardians, some of them were good, but for the most part, they just robbed them blind. And it even came to the point, there was like a law that said that they could only withdraw so much money out of their own funds a year, no matter what their guardians said. And I was like, the lengths that people went to control them. But anyway, also the first part of the book also starts to detail the murders that occurred on the reservation, and especially went into depth in a few of them, and that was in the Molly Burkhart's family, and detailing some of the things that went on. And there was a lot more murders that went on at the same time. It was this time between 1921 and like 1925 was called the Reign of Terror on the reservation, and how many people died, and how different agencies like the sheriff and the marshals and all of these people would investigate. And even like an early version of the FBI came in and did investigations, and it all went absolutely nowhere. Some of them were paid off, some of them didn't care. There's casual prejudice that was there. Anyway, detailed that. And then the second part of the book, which is where I'm in now, talks more about Tom White, who was the FBI agent in charge, the special agent in charge of investigating. He was sent by J. Edgar Hoover to investigate and solve these murders, and talking about kind of his upbringing and where he came from and his background, and how he, became the man that Hoover sent. And then talking about how he very cleverly set up how his investigation was going to go based on reading the past ones and the undercover operatives that he sent in. And it's all been just really interesting. I am kind of wondering, because again, I'm halfway through, and it almost seems like it's kind of wrapping up. They have made an arrest, and it's headed to court. These people were so crooked. It's unreal how much power they had. Yeah, it was unreal. Anyway, there's some arrests made, and they're headed to court. So I don't know if there's going to be some, and there's still like half the book left. So I don't know if there's going to be, you know, more twists and turns, more murders, more suspects, or if, you know, they have to go. I don't know what's going to happen when it seems like it's kind of all wrapping up, but there's still so much book left. So really interested to see what happens through this, and if they can actually get this, especially one man who was kind of the mastermind of all this, if they're actually going to get him convicted or not, and or even to court at this point. Doesn't seem like, but I mean, just this corruption in this this area in Oklahoma that was the Osage reservation, and the just massive number of people that died just over oil money. I mean, granted, it was like huge money, huge, but still, I mean, I think they said in one that it was numbering into the hundreds of people that were killed, and nobody cared. Nobody was looking into this. There was no general outcry. There was no, I mean, and it was all over the newspapers. Everybody, like, or at least in the area anyway, everybody knew about it. I don't know. It was nuts. Just nuts. Anyway, it's really interesting reading. I've enjoyed it so much so far. I'm not a huge fan of nonfiction books usually, but the writing style is really engaging, and I've been reading it really fast, and it just keeps you kind of wanting to keep going and find out about the history of these people and what Tom White's going to do next and how they're going to move things around. So anyway, I'm really enjoying it, and I am obviously very much looking to see what happens next. So I'm going to keep reading and see how much more I can get done.
Okay, so I am about 7 chapters into the book. I feel like I've just been hit with so much information. Okay, first of all, I don't know why. That's how both of these statements, I don't know why I believe these statements, okay? I was surprised to hear that the Osage tribe was part Catholic, or at least dabbled in Catholicism. I don't know why. That just blew my mind. And being a Catholic myself, I'm just like, oh, all right, that's pretty cool. Respect, homies, you know? But anyway, I don't know why that surprised me. It did. Second thing that surprised me, or I don't know why I believed it, I feel so dumb. I legit did not realize that this book was set in the 20s, and it took me so long. And the book even said it multiple times, like the time when this book was set. But for some reason in my brain, I'm thinking this is like the times the wild, wild west. All right, the book being here talking about how there's car and tire tracks everywhere. I'm just like, bro, you're like way too many years in the future, okay? Like, nah. Like, you mean wagon tracks? Like, oh God. What is wrong with my brain? It's also really cool to listen and hear all of the different like town names and everything, because that's one thing that I really enjoy about true stories and nonfiction books that are set where I live, because I've been to all of these places they're talking about. Perry, Oklahoma. I have my my aunt's family. My aunt is from Perry, Oklahoma, so I've been there before. I've been to Pahuska. They talked about places in Kansas that I've been to and or lived around or like whatever. So it's like really interesting to me to hear all of the different towns and stuff that are mentioned in the book, because I'm just like, oh my dang, that like happened in my back door, all right. But yeah, it's pretty dope to hear. Something that is not so dope to hear is all of the murders. There is so much nefarious things happening behind the scenes, and I guarantee you it's an inside job, okay? Like, I know, there's so many people getting murked, and it's all within the same family. Like, there's just too many coincidences happening. Also, there was a scene in there where they're talking about how, like, after they found Anna, they found her body and they could not find the bullet anywhere, and so then the I'm gonna call them autopsy techs. I don't really know what their title was, but the brothers, or were they brothers? I don't know. The two of them, they were trying to find the bullet, and they literally smashed her skull and her brain with a meat cleaver trying to find the bullet. You did what, sir? Things are getting crazy. Everyone's getting picked off. Anyone who wants to try and help solve the murders is getting, you know, so yeah. We'll see how it's going. I am starting to get a little bit more into it. I have to admit, like the first half of it, I was kind of like, or the first bit that I've read, that I've had so far, like I haven't been like getting into it so much, and I don't know if that's just because it's the audiobook or what, but now that we're like really leaning into the whole true crime aspect of it all, I'm really sinking my teeth into that, and I'm liking it a lot, so hopefully that continues. Keep reading. Yo, this went from 0 to 100 real quick. We got bombs going off now, killing people. Oh my god. Like, that's a little bit extreme, okay? Literally. Yo, I said it. I said it. These criminals are creative AF, okay? They have been poisoning her with insulin. They have actual like doctors administering insulin, which is really poison. Oh my gosh. I shouldn't be impressed, but I am impressed by the creativity that is happening here. And like nobody's doing nothing about it. Like, what the heck is just happening? She's just like, oh, my diabetes is getting worse, and they're like, let's up the insulin. And like, okay, hi, I'm almost done with the book. I just wanted to hop on here really quick because there was an amazing moment in the book that literally made me smile from ear to ear, and it was just like the most perfect scene for justice. The real mastermind behind it, oh my god, this man was like pure evil, the devil incarnate himself. He had everybody in his pocket, including like politicians, police, doctors, everybody, so that way that he could get what he wanted and get everybody killed out of the way so he could end up with the money, the fortune, the wealth, all of it, whatever. They eventually got him. I was worried there for a second that the case is going to, like the case went to trial, and I thought that, oh my gosh, this man's got the jury in his pocket. He's also a white man like them. They're not going to convict him, or it's going to be a mistrial or something. I thought something for sure was going to go wrong. Luckily it didn't, and everything worked out. And the main FBI agent on the case, white, he ended up, Bailey, no! He ended up leaving the bureau and went to go work at Fort Leavenworth prison, which was like the most like brutal prison. It's where you don't want to go. If you have to go anywhere, you don't want to go to Fort Leavenworth, because that's where like they are the hardest on their prisoners or whatever, I don't know. And that's where they sent the two men, Hale, the devil, and then the devil's assistant, were sent to Fort Leavenworth, where White was now the warden of the prison, or like working there. And he walks out and he greets them smiling and just be like, hey boys, how's it going? Good to see ya. Oh man, I loved it. Oh, I loved it so much. Like, oh, beautiful. It's like, that is justice. I'm also like really glad, I'm gonna backtrack a bit, I'm really glad that the jury didn't give them the death penalty, because quite frankly, I think I'm against the death penalty for some reasons, but one of the main reasons is because it's an easy out. It's an easy out. Sure, everyone's afraid of death and all of that, but like, I think that if someone's gonna do some really terrible things, that they need to suffer in life before they go and suffer in hell. So I don't want people to have the death penalty because I want them to live a lifelong sentence of suffering on earth before they go and live an eternity of suffering in hell. I don't know. That's just me personally, and so I'm really glad that they decided to give them a life sentence and not like the death penalty, which was an option back then. Anyway, it was an awesome moment. Okay, I'm gonna finish up the book and then I'm gonna be going to go meet Kelly here in a few hours, I think.
I didn't have much time to read last night. I kind of had to sandwich it in between trying to make dinner and various things that my kid needed me to do, but I did manage a little bit, and I kept going because I really wanted to finish this one chapter, which would also be the end of this one section. And this is what it ended on. There was another layer to the case, a deeper, darker, even more terrifying conspiracy which the Bureau had never exposed. So that makes me think that I was wondering, because this whole thing looked like it was wrapping up at only 65% of the book done, like page 236 out of 339. And I was wondering just where this was going to go from here. And so it sounds like there was, you know, more going on. Maybe something else had been revealed. But other than that, I mean, I'm looking forward now to seeing, you know, what else there is, because that's a pretty good hook right there. It's all been really good. The last part of this second section, just, I don't know, it wasn't very interesting to me. It just kind of followed people after the case was already done. And I think there was a lot of stuff that really just didn't need to be in here talking about. I mean, it was okay to read about like Tom White and what he did after the case was done, and he eventually left the FBI and went on to be a prison warden, and still had some interesting things happen to him after that. But there's a lot of like interactions with Hoover and things about Hoover that I don't think were really kind of necessary. But anyway, I'm gonna try and hopefully squeeze in some reading time today and see how far I can get. I finished reading Killers of the Flower Moon last night, and Amy is now going to be here in just a little bit so we can have our discussion about the book. I do want to say, in one of my earlier clips, I kept referring to the area where they lived as the Osage Reservation, and it was not a reservation. I don't think it can be termed that, because the tribe had actually bought the land with their own funds, so bought it themselves. It's not an area where the government had forced them to live. So that was kind of their own land. I did want to say that. The other thing is that I kept using the term Indian, which I know can be a problematic term for some. And I just want to say that I was really so into reading the book, and that is the term that was used in the book because of the era that the book is set in. It's just kind of what naturally rolled off. So I did not mean any offense by that, but that was my reason for doing that. So at the end of my last clip, I had read a sentence that ended the second section of the book, which kind of led me to believe there was going to be all of this big stuff go on. And I think that was a little bit oversold by the author. I don't think it really was quite what it made out to be. It sounded like there was just going to be this, you know, bigger, great, you know, conspiracy. Then I don't think it was. It was definitely a lot more darkness, and it was a lot more widespread. But I think the thought that there was a larger conspiracy than what had already gone to court and that case, I don't really think so. But anyway, the last section, it was more about the author's journey as far as doing research and talking about even more killings that happened. It was much more widespread than just what went to court, because they really only went to court over a few of the cases, because that's all that the FBI could actually prove had happened. So that's what they were able to do, but it was so much more widespread. There were so many, I think it was in the hundreds of people that were killed during this time. Overall, a very good book, a very good look at what happened in Oklahoma during the early to mid 1920s, and all over money and power. It was just nuts. Like I said before, it's crazy. But overall, even though I had a few quibbles with how it was put together and some of the things were included that I don't know that were necessary. I do wish more time had been spent on the Osage people and their trials that they were going through at the time and how hard they had to fight against keeping their rights against people that didn't care. And the murders themselves, I wish had been expanded a little more and a little less on the end part, and even, you know, like I had said before, some of the things that had to do with Hoover and things like that. I wish it had been expanded that way. But overall, I very much enjoyed the book, and I do think that this book was worth the hype. So Amy's going to be here in a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what she thought of it too, and see if she thought it was worth the hype too. So we'll see you in a little bit.
We are back.
Okay. We also have not seen each other's blogs, and we have not talked about the book yet. So
no, this is going to be our first chat.
This is when we will check in with each other and see what we thought. So what'd you think?
I think it was worth the hype.
Is it worth the hype?
I think it was.
I think it's worth the hype too.
I think we finally found one.
Yeah, I do. I did have some quibbles, because of course I did.
Of course.
But I think based on the subject matter alone, it's worth the hype.
Yeah.
For no other reason than that, worth the hype. Absolutely. People need, this should be required reading in high school. I really think it should be.
I mean, it's a lot better than some of the required reading that is typically out there, so.
You know, like for a social studies class or a history class.
American history class.
This should be required reading.
So,
absolutely.
Timothy Vanduska.
Yeah, hey
Get
Tim.
it on Sinners reading
There
this.
you go. So I think I said in one of mine that I think it's really sad because we live in Kansas. And Osage County, Oklahoma is right over the Kansas border.
Yeah, I've been to Osage County.
If he decides to blade the driveway right now. Oh,
I'll take tractor noises for 1,000.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, I think it was just sad. I had no idea that this occurred. I had no idea this was a thing that happened. No clue. And this was big news back in the day. It's not like it was some obscure thing that happened out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was big news at the time.
Yeah.
So I do think that if for no other reason than to, you know, educate kids or anyone about that, you know, basically the exploitation of indigenous peoples did not end in the 1880s. You know, this was sick, just sick. So anyway, being from Kansas and that close to it and not knowing, I think is sad, and it should be part of the history course. The book is the Osage tribe had, I don't remember where they originated from, like in Arkansas somewhere is kind of where they were originally, but anyway, their first reservation that they were forced onto was in Kansas. And of course, as per usual, the settlers came in and all of a sudden the government wanted that land. And so they were basically forcing them out. And again. And the tribe itself bought and paid for this land in Oklahoma. They bought it. It was not a reservation they were forced onto. They bought it. And they specifically bought this place in Oklahoma because they thought no one else would want it. Because it wasn't good farmland. You know, they just thought nobody will want this. So they bought and paid for it. That is an interesting point right there. So they moved down there and they were living there, doing their thing. And of course, because, you know, the government can't leave anything alone, the they come in, and of course there's settlers coming in still. So the government comes in and basically says you have to parcel up your land into allotments of 160 acres, and you can only own one allotment per tribe member, and then you have to sell off the rest. So these white settlers that are coming in, you have to sell it to them. Telling them what they had to do with land they bought and paid for. So
current government's dream right now.
Yeah. So through some negotiations and stuff, they fought to get allotments to be 360 acres. They fought that a family could own more than one allotment. They won concessions. But one of the biggest ones was that even if they sold off an allotment, they kept mineral rights. Mm-hmm. And there was no reason really for that to happen at that point. It was just something they said. They called it their underground reservation. So even if the allotment, the land was owned by a white settler, the tribe kept the rights to anything that came from underground, so mining. And those, they were called head rights, and those could not be bought and sold. They could only be inherited. Also an important point for the rest of the story. Mm-hmm. So that kind of sets up what happened next, why what happened. That was the situation at the time. So of course then in the early 1900s, oil was discovered, like huge oil.
Yeah,
huge.
Like the Osage tribe became richer than any of the white settlers around.
Oh, they were the wealthiest people in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking like millions and millions of dollars, and which corresponds to like billions of dollars in today's money.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were wealthy.
I mean, there were even people that, there was a comment in there I remember reading where some white guy married a girl from the tribe, and someone had asked him what he did for work or whatever. He's like, I married an Osage.
Yeah, I don't have to work.
I don't have to. I married an Osage.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's important to know why they had to sell off allotments, is that's why the white settlers were there, and then they would intermarry. Mm-hmm. But of course the government could not leave well enough alone again, and they set up the guardianship program, because in their infinite wisdom, they decided that the Osage Indians could not manage their own money because, you know, they're Indians.
Yeah, but only the full-blooded ones. If you were a half-blood or an Indian American, then there weren't any restrictions upon you.
Yeah, yeah. But if you were a half or more, then you would be assigned a guardian, and generally only if you had money, because if you didn't have money, nobody cared.
Yeah.
So they would get guardians appointed that would tell them how they could spend their money, and then after that, they put more structure in place to say that they could only withdraw a certain amount of money every year out of their trust funds.
Mm-hmm.
Which I still don't think was the government's idea. I think, you know, the way everything unfolded, I think it was probably, they were lobbied hard by certain people to put that in place. But it's important to the story about why things happened the way they did, that guardianship was in place at that time. So fully adult people who had been managing their money, well, I mean, some of them blew it, some of them didn't, some of them invested very well, but it was their damn money.
I mean, that's like,
come from their own damn land.
Yeah, that's like telling what's the Tesla guy?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's like going up to him and saying like, hey, you can only take out so much of your money or whatever. Or,
you know what, Elon, you're being a little crazy with your money. I think you need a guardian.
Yeah, that's pretty much
it's what they did.
I mean,
there was no, and the Osage tribe, they had like no support. Of course, the Bureau of Indian Affairs at that time was a joke. It was just lip service of the government to supporting indigenous peoples. They didn't care. There was a couple quotes from the director of the Bureau at that point that they didn't care. So that's kind of the background, and that's what was in place at the time. that then in 1921 they discovered the first, well, it was the first one they discovered, but it wasn't the first murder. And that was Anna Brown. And she was the sister of Molly Burkhart, and Molly was married to a white guy, who was the nephew of William Hale, who was a big rancher. Lots of power. Basically, you know, anybody that wanted to run for political office, like mayor or sheriff or whatever, they went to talk to William Hale, and if he gave you their support,
you were gonna win.
You were in. Mm-hmm. You were in. He was a big deal. He was a big benefactor.
Had everybody in his pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. But he was a big benefactor. He was known to say that, like, the Osage tribe was the best of his friends that he'd ever had, and the best people and all this. So he was, you know, kind of this big deal. And Ernest Burkhart was William's nephew, and he was the one married to Molly. And it was Molly's sister Anna that was discovered murdered. Well, she went missing first, and then Molly was trying all over to try and get people to look for Anna. And finally they found her after several days.
They found someone else first.
Did they find Charlie first?
I think they found Charlie, and then they found Anna.
And then they found Anna. Well, there was two murders that happened right around the same time that were clearly murders. Molly and Anna had had another sister, Minnie, who had died of unusual health conditions that Molly was always suspicious of because her sister had been in fairly good health. And it's important to note also that Molly was diabetic.
Yes.
At a time when they didn't really have a lot of treatments for diabetes. But anyway, Molly always suspected that was kind of strange, but then they would come with it. But anyway, those were the first murders that occurred. Were not by far the last. So there was all this going on. And of course, because of all the oil money and all of that, there was lots of crooks and thieves that were around. It was Prohibition as well. So there was bootleggers that had set up in Osage County. Because it kind of was, it's in the middle of the prairie, so it really is kind of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So all this stuff was going on at the time these murders were going on, and it didn't seem like Molly was trying really hard to find out what happened to her sister, and was just getting nowhere. Like, of course, the city police, the county sheriff,
the lawmen,
they weren't doing anything. They hired private investigators. Hi, Penny.
Hello,
Hi,
Penny.
sis. My shaved cat. So they weren't getting anywhere. The private investigators were coming up with nothing. There had even been, it wasn't called the FBI at the time,
Not yet.
but there had been some government agents that came in and just got nowhere, because there was all kinds of rumors and things that were, anyway, they just got nowhere. And so that was what was going on. And of course, you had to at first make somebody care. Come here. Come here. Just come over here and sit. Sit right here. There. Not gonna be happy unless you're right in front of the camera. Okay, there's a good girl. Hi. So that was kind of all that was going on when in 1925 the newly appointed director of what would be the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, assigned Tom White to go to the reservation and figure out what was going on. And Tom White had been a lawman all his life, had been a Texas Ranger, had been an agent for a while. His dad was a county sheriff in Texas. In fact, all his brothers were all like lawmen too. So lots of experience with this. And so Tom White went in and assembled a team and got to work, and man, he cleaned up.
He did.
He cleaned up.
He did. He was very good at his job.
Yeah. Yeah, he really was. Because he went at it, because all of these other people who had tried, it was like they were trying to listen to every rumor and following every rumor, and Tom White only...
But they didn't even follow. That's the thing, is like there were so many rumors, and they would follow it up to like a certain point, but then they wouldn't like actually follow through entirely and like rule out people or theories or anything like that. So when White came in, he was like going through all of the same things that everyone else did, and he's just like, okay, you definitely are not a suspect anymore, but you might be, and this rumor is just ridiculous. And like, he was going through it all.
Well, he was very much focused on what can we prove, where the other guys were just like chasing their tails. But it always sounded like, and I think it said in there too, that especially, you know, as more he got into it, Tom White was, okay, all right. He was looking at where they would investigate to a certain point and starting to suspect, oh, I know, but come here. Cat? Stubborn thing. That was the point where they found something and were told to back off or were threatened. That's what he was suspecting. He was starting to suspect that these weren't individual murders, they were all part of the same kind of conspiracy going on.
It was all connected. There are too many coincidences for it to not all be connected somehow.
Right. So that's where he came in, but he was only focused on what he could prove. And that's why out of all the murders that had happened, and also all the suspected, he suspected they were murders, but he couldn't prove it because they died of medical reasons or health reasons. Right. But there was one at least that was pretty strongly related, that they were almost positive he was poisoned. And they just couldn't prove it because toxicology wasn't really a thing back then. But the way he died was what had been observed from strychnine poisoning. But that made Tom White think that maybe some of these other, there were too many health problems. Because the death rate among the tribe members in Osage County was like 3 times the national average.
Yeah. So
he was suspecting something was going on, but he couldn't prove it. So he focused on Anna Brown and Charlie Whitehorse, and then Rita and Bill Smith. And Rita was another sister of Molly's. And then during that time, there was the 4 sisters, only Molly's the only one left, and then her mother dies too.
And then Molly starts to decline in health a little bit.
Get sick too, but yeah. So they were trying to do all this, and they build this case and find out that basically what they find out is there's this conspiracy to get the head rights because they could only be inherited. So what Tom White suspected was that William Hale was behind it all, because he basically owned everybody in town, and that he had made his nephew marry Molly Burkhart, and then systematically went around killing off her family members so that because every time somebody would die, their family members would inherit their head rights. So, and they even structured it to the point where their mother was the last one, because everything would have reverted to their mother. And so if Molly was the only one left when their mother died, Molly get everything. If the mother died first, it would be split among the sisters and then go out from there. So they even made sure to kill them in the proper order.
Yeah. Which I said in my vlogs, and it's probably like, probably shouldn't say it, but I'm impressed.
I mean, damn.
By all of it, like, I'm impressed.
It took some thought into that. But, man, it's cold. So Molly ended up being the only one left. And then the thing was they were going to kill her off. Yep. And then Ernest, her husband, would inherit everything. Even though he was a white guy, he would still inherit. And he would get everything from the entire family, which was a lot. It was a big estate. And then William Hale, through his nephew, he controlled his nephew. His nephew did whatever he told him to do. He would then, in essence, be in control.
Seems like everyone that Hale came in contact with did whatever he wanted them to do.
Be in control. So it all came out And it took some doing. There's a jury tampering, trying to bribe the judges.
There were so many juries that got like two or three juries got dismissed because of witness tampering or jury tampering.
They were being bribed. They were being threatened. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah. Hale had whoever he wanted in his pocket, pretty much.
So, I thought it was interesting, too, because, you know, the part of the tagline is the birth of the FBI. Because it did become the Federal Bureau of Investigation during this time. And I think one of the reasons that Hoover took such an interest in there, because they had a couple of scandals, and he was like, well, probably everybody knows Hoover was a big old douchebag, but he was very anal, very, very anal, and he was like, we are going to have no more scandals. We cannot have any more embarrassments. So he picked Tom White because of his solid reputation. And this was becoming big news.
Yeah.
So they had to do something about it because they were a joke. And Hoover was trying to turn all of that around. And so that's why he gave all of these resources to Tom White. He basically, whatever you need, you can have. But this has got to get resolved in some fashion. But I just wonder if Hoover hadn't been so self-serving, had it needed a win so bad, if anybody would have even cared.
I don't think so.
Because, I mean, that was the thing about this.
That was the whole thing behind, the whole reason behind it.
They were so... I mean, nobody cared about these people. Nothing.
What did you think of the book, Penny?
She's like, it was good to lay on. Come here. I know, but you cannot sit right in front of the camera. I think it would have been, I just couldn't believe how cold people were. That, I mean, all of these people were dying, and the general attitude was, it's just a few Indians. Like, oh my gosh. And the way that their rights were trampled on constantly. The disregard for them as humans. I mean, they were just still, you know, the notion of them just being savages, half animal practically, was still very, very strong. That floored me. How many people so casually dismissed. And so the newspaper coverage was horrible. It's some of the things they wrote about them just because they had money. Like, there was one headline that said something about, like, in the rest of the nation, like, 1 in 11 people own a car. But for the Osage, it was 1 Osage owned 11. Which was not true. But who cares if it was even?
Right.
I mean, why not? They have the money. But they were, like, stirring up resentment and jealousy. And
again, not something you would see being written about Elon Musk.
No, never. Never. Or at that time it was, you know, well, they talked about the oil barons that would come to these auctions when they were auctioning off their, you know, the right to drill and stuff. The big guys. It was the big guys. And, you know, they would never be questioned on how they were spending their money. I don't, it just floored me. And they had no recourse. They had every legal reason in the world to go to court, but they had no way to go to court because nobody would listen to them. I just can't imagine feeling that helpless. To have everything that you worked for, that you bought and paid for, that you worked for, taken away from you because you have basically no rights, even though you should. As white people, we can go run out and hire a lawyer, take it to court. We might not win, but we have that option.
Assuming that you can afford a lawyer.
We have
in
the
this
option.
economy.
Well, still, but we have the option to be heard. You know, they didn't even have that.
Yeah.
They had one guy, the one lawyer guy, that was a real big advocate for them in Washington. But he couldn't even get into court. Nobody would hear the case. They would just not even, they just wouldn't even listen. Anyway, I know. I'm not naive. It just makes me angry. I don't like government overreach. There's my political message for the day. Anyway, so that's the gist of the story. And that's, luckily, what came to be the FBI was in trouble. And Hoover needed a win. And luckily Tom White was very good at what he did. I mean, luckily all that came so that at least 3 people got some sort of justice and Molly Burkhart didn't die. There was so many others that there was just literally no way to prove what happened to them. So they couldn't get justice, but at least people knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And the guardianship program did eventually go away. After all of these murders, and it found out, you know, that it was basically her own husband, who was her guardian, by the way. Mm-hmm. He's the one that manipulated the system in order to get her money. She actually was able to be heard in court and be declared that she didn't need a guardian.
Like, gee, thanks.
Okay. She was like 40 years old. Okay. But so even then, I mean, she legally had to be declared that she didn't need a guardian. So it was still very much in place. Mm-hmm. Even at that point, and that was like almost 1930 before it all went to court, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was ridiculous. But luckily it did eventually go away. I mean, the oil boom didn't last. The oil was used up, and so it's not obviously the same booming rich place it was back then. And of course that probably had something to do with the guardianship program going away, because there just wasn't money there anymore.
Yeah.
To be exploited, to be stolen. They were even, the pricing, like in a store, if it was a white person that went in to buy, say, a steak, it was like $5. But if one of the Osage went in, it was like $25. And then the government has the nerve to come and say it's them that's mismanaging their money and spending too much.
You ain't fooling Kelly.
I know the score. I know what's going on. Anyway, because of that story, it is definitely worth the hype. Yeah. They said it needs to be read by so many people, so many places. Everybody should know that this kind of crap went on. And to be on the lookout for it again. I mean, there are still ways that people try and control and other people. And, yeah. But, you know, like, towards the end of that second, whatever he called them, what did he call them? Chronicles. The end of that second chronicle, though, where they just talked about constantly, like, what happened to Tom White and what Hoover did. And then Tom White wrote Hoover this letter, and this is how Hoover responded. I didn't care. I didn't care about any of that shit.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think there was about 20 pages in there that could have been... I think they should have expanded more on the Osage story. The people's stories. I don't know. It just seemed out of place to me. Okay, so...
It didn't match the rest of the story. It was kind of
like... It didn't, except, like, at the very end, and I read this in one of my vlogs. At the very end of the second chronicle, he said there was another layer to the case, a deeper, darker, even more terrifying conspiracy, which the Bureau had never exposed. So that makes you think that, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, what else has been happening?
I was, like, expecting there to be, like, something come out from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Mm-hmm. That they were, like...
They were in on it,
They were in on it.
Yeah.
So I was expecting that, and I said in my vlog, that was oversold.
Yeah. That was just added in there for some type of, like, a shock value or a cliffhanger or whatever to get you to read the final bit.
But he made it sound like there was some... like William Hale was only part of a broader conspiracy. It wasn't. He was part of a broader problem. Like, all the Guardians were doing this. They even talked about that one guy, that Morrison guy, that had married an Osage woman and killed her so he could inherit it. And he was telling people, hey, everybody should do this. Go get yourselves a squaw and kill her off. That's how you make money. Wow. That's cold. That is cold. Anyway, so I think that was oversold. But one thing that struck me, I remember when they were going over Tom White's later years, because he wrote a book with another guy helping him. And he told this guy he wanted it written in third person. Because the I, if you used the I, then it would put the focus on Tom White instead of on the broader story. Mm-hmm. I think the reporter, this guy, the author, should have taken a clue from Tom White. Because it really felt like that last chapter was or that last section was kind of a, hey, this is what I did.
Yeah.
It felt a little too back-patting to me.
It felt, it was out of place. Like, it shouldn't have been part of the story at all.
I just love the undercover parts of it, too. They had undercover agents that were... He was so smart. Tom White was so smart about how he handled this and everything and went about it.
Yeah, I liked him.
And William Hale, he thought he was smarter than everybody, too. Like,
they usually do.
Oh, well, sure they do. Sure they do. But... that was just great, though. That was great. Because they were, oh my gosh, it was just so blatant what they were doing. Like, he really didn't think that he could be touched.
No, it was good. It was good. Mm-hmm. I am sad that my physical copy hadn't come in time to read, and I had to do the audiobook version. Because I do feel like that took away from it a little bit.
Oh, because you couldn't see all the pictures.
Oh yeah, I didn't see any pictures.
Oh my gosh, these were so cool. It's full of pictures. One of the benefits of reading a 1900s crime story was got all these pictures. This one was cool, like the top, you probably can't see this picture, but the top picture there is Tom White's family. His grandpa, his dad, and his brothers. There was 4 brothers. And his grandpa had been a lawman, his dad had been a lawman. All 4 brothers were. It was so cool.
Family business.
Yeah. All 4 sisters together. So there were so many pictures. So yeah, you didn't get to see that.
No. But my book arrived at 3 o'clock today, so when I get home I can look at
this picture's so cool. I love that her chauffeur is in full headgear and
nice.
Love it. Anyway, yeah, that was really neat to be able to, and the pictures were well placed, so I liked it. I think there was, like I said, well, hello again. Hi.
Oh. We're not going to stop in front of the camera this time?
Nope. Don't put your butt in front of the camera. That's not very ladylike. Okay. Yep, see? She likes to lay on it.
Nope.
Anyway. There were some structural things that I think could have been done a little better, but overall, yeah.
I definitely liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to like it.
Well, I figured it was a hyped book about killings. So...
I mean, you don't need much else to impress me. Any type of like serial killer, true crime, I'm in for it. I'm here. I'll read it.
Yeah, no, it definitely was.
I think it's gonna make a good movie.
I think so too.
Maybe that could be. I think so too,
because it really was. I mean,
we could do a movie night with it.
Oh, we could. I do think so, because I think that whole, well, obviously the crime part of it, but the investigation part of it, I mean, it was very dangerous.
It was very high stakes, and there was just a lot of times where, I mean, pretty much when White signed up for the job, he added his name to a hit list, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So he was a marked man from the time that he accepted that position to go after all of them. So it was a lot of times where he could have died, and they tried to kill him. There were a lot of like missed moments, missed opportunities.
Well, and those other 2 guys that did get killed.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy that got thrown off a train.
Yep.
And the other guy, he went to Washington because he was gonna like go and
McBride or whatever.
Yeah. What was he gonna do?
He was going to Washington. Go talk to, try and get someone in Washington to listen about the murders. I think. I think. I don't know. That was at the beginning of the book.
Yeah, those two were not subtle murders either. Like, he was taken out in an alley and basically completely undressed and strangled and stabbed. Was he stabbed too? I don't remember. Anyway, left in a back alley. There was nothing subtle about it. They were sending a message, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, other people, just people who were just simply trying to help, were getting murdered. So it was a dangerous place to be all the way around if you were in any way trying to, if you were an Osage tribe member, or if you were involved with them in any way. I was really surprised that one lawyer guy didn't get hit.
Yeah.
Because he was very outspoken.
I don't know.
It was interesting.
It was good. It was good, for sure. It was very interesting.
So. It was good. So yes, worth the hype.
Worth the hype. Stamped.
That's right. We should get a stamp.
We should.
Anyway, yeah, we agree. We agree. And I'm really glad that so many people are reading this.
Yeah.
I'm glad I couldn't get it from the library, because I think it should be well known. It makes you wonder how many other stories like this are out there that we just don't know.
Oh, way more than we would think.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's so much that gets swept under the rug.
Oh yeah.
By everybody. I mean.
Oh, I know.
White history for a reason.
True.
But
anyway,
yeah,
it was good stuff.
It was.
Very good.
Next week's video, we are talking about banned books.
We are.
Kelly has picked out a couple of banned books for us to read, because I believe that actually starts this week that this video is going out. Banned Books Week is sometime in September.
Yeah.
Sometime coming up. And so we thought it would be fun to also participate and, be with the band.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. I think you picked some good ones. So I'm excited. And they're shorter, so.
They are. I picked Fight Club by Chuck. I can't pronounce his last name right now. And starts with a P. And Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And both of them are nice short books.
Yeah.
Shorter than I thought. I thought Fight Club was a chunk of a book, actually. For some reason I had that impression, but it is not. So there we go.
It's going to work out well. And then the week after that we have our live, right?
Our live book discussion of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. Who knows? I don't know. I might look it up, I might not. Anyway, that is the first Sunday in October. We'll be doing 1st. That. Is it really?
Yep.
October 1. Well, we're kicking it off right.
Heck yeah.
And we also have a spooky craft to do that day too, because
we do.
We're all about crafting these days.
Kelly's ordered all the supplies.
I have. So yes, that will be October 1st.
Yep. Join us. Read the book if you haven't already. We'd love to chat with you.
Which does say, if you have read this, and what do you think? Did you think it was worth the hype? Did you like it? Did you have quibbles with it?
Are you going to be watching the movie?
Are you going to go to the movie? Let us know.
Alright. Well, if you made it this far, thanks for watching this video. We appreciate you being here, and if you did enjoy it, go ahead and give it a big old thumbs up. It's free to do, and it helps us out a lot. It lets us know that you are enjoying our content, so that's always good. And also be sure to go on down and hit the subscribe button below the video. And join the Everyday Adventure family. I had a mini stroke, wasn't sure. Couldn't remember what I normally say in this.
What I was supposed to say.
Yeah, join the Everyday Adventure family where you can see our beautiful faces every Sunday with some amazing book content.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to see more of it, you can head on over to Amy's channel right now and see all kinds of other videos that we've done. As we mentioned, we do a live book club, we do monthly wrap-ups, and then we do little specialty reading videos like this as well. If that's not enough for you,
Don't know why it wouldn't be,
But she has a lot of other content on there as well. It is spooky season now, so you can see all sorts of things from DIY crafts, decorating her house, shopping with her. That was a massive shopping. Nick's a sport. That's all I've got to say. Nick is a sport. I don't think I could have held up.
Yeah, he's a trooper.
I don't think I could have kept up with her that entire day. That was a massive shopping spree. And also a video on the haul that she got from that day, plus lots of other things. If that's not enough, you can also go check out her blog, where she has even more content. So you can just be in the family all the way around. And as she just announced the other day, she now has memberships. So you can head on down below, you click on the join, and you can go pick a membership level and support the channel and get all kinds of extra content that way as well. So
lots of amazing perks.
Yeah. I haven't done that yet. I gotta get over there and do that. So go down there, click like, click subscribe, click join, do it all. Do all the clicks.
Yeah, all the clicks. It won't take very long, promise.
Yeah.
But, alright, well.
But that's it.
That's it.
That's it for us.
So, like I said, hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I'm Amy.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are
the Everyday Epic.
See y'all in the next one.